presses. Stop the presses. Some people predict the future of newspapers. The end of newspapers is just around the corner. But that can't happen because newspapers and journalism protect all of you, protect society. We hold institutions, CEOs, and even your neighbors accountable for their actions. And especially in the world today, with unverified sources, questionable information, and really an abundance of information that is just of poor quality, it's the curated, edited, trusted information that rises to the top. And in today's digital age, newspapers and journalism matter more than ever. This is a story about onions. Onions. The students in Mary Dunn's 5th grade class at the Albert Hall School in Waterville, Maine, couldn't wait to harvest the 100 onions that they had planted at the school. Their plan was to give half the onions to the Mid-Maine homeless shelter and the other half to the school kitchen to be used in the cafeteria in meals. The tops of the onions were all dried, recalled Teacher Mary Dunn, and Tuesday after Labor Day will be harvest day. Well, they went out that Tuesday, and the onions were gone, the entire bed. Now, the theft of 100 onions from a school garden may not seem like a big deal to most people, but to these kids, it was huge. This is the opening of a story by our reporter, Amy Calder, at the Morning Sentinel in Waterville. And Amy's story got shared on Facebook, picked up by USA Today, ABC News, and then farmers from California, Georgia, Texas, sent more than 700 pounds of onions to the Hall School. We're talking yellow onions, white onions, boiling onions, even some shallots. And former U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Donna Shalala sent the kids a check for $250 so they could pay it forward with onions. Now, before the internet, the onion story only goes as far as we're able to distribute the paper in the Waterville area. But thanks to the abundance of people that could now see that story, 700 pounds of onions make its way to the Hall School. Yes, newspapers have some very serious challenges. There are powerful forces that have been working against us for more than 20 years. Changing consumer habits, no time to read. Our most loyal audience, quite frankly, getting a little bit older, and millions of dollars migrating from advertising to other sources. But this digital transformation, while is a threat to newspapers, is a tremendous opportunity for journalism. So now let's talk about how and why newspapers can thrive, especially here in the state of Maine. To begin with, we're investing in journalism. So we have more reporters and photographers out on the streets telling your stories. More editors to make sure that the stories are unbiased and verified. And more web developers so we can continue to tell the stories online in data visualizations, video, and other interactive tools. Just this summer, we published a 29-part series called Unsettled. It was 46,000 words dedicated to telling the story of Maine's Passamaquoddy people. This 50-year story chronicled uninvestigated murders, state conspiracies, and it took our reporter, Colin Woodard, more than 1 year to research this important story. This is part of newspapers' commitment to public service, because without this, these people would otherwise have no voice. Economic development is on the minds of everyone in Maine, and we've dedicated more resources to covering the local business community, the sectors that are important to Maine. Agriculture, tourism, energy. We even have a reporter dedicated to covering the technology and innovation sector as that grows of emerging importance to us. The second area where we are focusing is, well, we always have, is to tell people's stories. So we are the record keepers of history, and I want to share this story with you. Henry Armand Daly, 91, of Scarborough, died on November 4th, 2014 at the Gosnell Memorial Hospice Hospital. He was born on November 9th, 1922, to Henry and Marie Daly in New Brunswick, Canada. At 6 months of age, he and his family moved to Westbrook. An outstanding athlete, he was captain and second baseman for the Telegram League championship baseball teams from 1938 to 1941 at Westbrook High School. He honorably served our country in the U.S. Army Air Corps during World War II in the Pacific Theater as a navigator and a side gunner on a B-25 bomber. So not really thought of or talked about much when you think about newspapers, but obituaries are our most popular feature, most read online, most used in print. And it's the one area that the internet hasn't completely disrupted, but instead enhanced through social sharing and through online condolences. We protect the public. We are the watchdogs. We have your back. And an example of that is Maine Care Rides. We chronicled how 2 private contractors, despite being paid millions of dollars by the state, left people literally standing in their driveways waiting for rides to medical appointments, rides that never came. As a result of our coverage, this entire system is being revamped. And more recently, Nurse Casey Hickok, we covered her state-imposed quarantine and the reaction from residents in Fort Kent, Maine when she traveled home there. Just 2 days ago, we got a note from Casey about what that coverage was like. And I'd like to read that now. Thank you. My second prop. To the editors at the Press Herald from the Ebola nurse. I must say that before my life became public, I'd never read your paper, but I'm consistently amazed at the level of honest and science-based reporting since this all began. I appreciated the respectfulness your reporters showed coming into my home and telling a more personal aspect of this story. I'm forever grateful for your integrity and the work that you do, and the American public needs more of what you provide. I hope you know it does not go unnoticed. All the best, Casey Hickok. We are also protectors of the First Amendment, and as a result of our efforts, the public won a vital First Amendment case giving access to 911 transcripts so the community can evaluate how well first responders do their job. The next area that we're really focused on is making sure all of our coverage is focused on what's vital to Maine. And I'm obviously talking about high school sports. More passionate than almost anything, we love our high school sports in Maine. Now I want everyone to close your eyes and I want you to picture your refrigerator. Not the 6 questionable cans of salsa that are in there, but think about the outside of your refrigerator and what's underneath those magnets. Pictures of your son's winning soccer team, your daughter's team celebrating the state championship in lacrosse. I've never seen anyone print out a page from Facebook and put it on their refrigerator or glue it into a scrapbook. Now, kids today, they don't necessarily run to the paper and devour the A section or the front section of the newspaper, but they do love high school sports, and they also like to read the funnies. We're investing in journalism. We tell people stories, we protect the public, and we report on what's vital. So now let's talk about our incredible shrinking audience. That's right. Over the past 10 years, our print audience has been cut in half. We've lost 50% of our print circulation. But when you layer on the amount of people accessing us online, whether it's desktop or mobile, which is the fastest growing segment of our audience, also the people that read our stories on a tablet, have liked us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter, it's more than 1.8 million people. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's a unique number, and I do hope many of you in this audience can count yourself in a number of these different buckets. But I share it to illustrate the sheer volume of people that we can now reach through these channels. But again, the powerful forces working against us. Our most profitable customers are in print, so we have to figure out how can we build a business model to fund journalism through these other people that do have interest in our content. Well, the first thing that we're doing is we are working against a powerful source and one that's self-inflicted. When in the 1990s, most newspapers decided to give their valuable content away for free online. Today, you will find most newspapers, including ours, have some form of a paywall to drive more revenue through circulation. Now, we know everyone loves Maine, there's great interest in Maine outside of our state. So whether you went to college here, you grew up here and moved away, you have a second home here, or you had a great time at camp, you love to stay in touch with Maine. In fact, 40% of this online audience is from outside of Maine, with Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Florida being the states that like to access our content the most frequently. So today, we have paying digital customers in 47 out of 50 states. So apparently, folks in Indiana, Arkansas, and Louisiana never went to camp here. But that's okay. We know that we'll get them. But we're not tripping over ourselves to go to an all-digital model. We love the printed newspaper, and especially on Sunday, because Sunday in Maine is special. You can go to a TEDx event, but you can't hunt, you can't buy a car, and today, reading the Sunday newspaper is a tradition for so many people. And we continue to work on our Sunday product. But now let's talk about social media for a second. If you were to visit our content on a mobile phone, you're more likely to come to us through Facebook than you are through any other source. You don't go to pressherald.com directly, you don't find us through Google, you come through Facebook. Because Facebook is a massive recommendation engine for our journalism. It's a big way for us to sample. Now, people don't go say, oh, honey, let's go check out the Press Herald page on Facebook. But instead, as you like and you share our content, it appears in your friends' news feeds, and you trust your friends, so you're going to be more likely to check on it. Same phenomenon on Twitter, although Twitter is teeny tiny in comparison to the traffic that Facebook brings us. Social media amplifies and distributes our journalism to more people than we ever imagined. And without social media, if you ask the kids at the Hall School, well, that onion story, it just doesn't sprout. Now, most of my career has been spent on the sales and marketing side, always in a media property. So my job was always to figure out how to fund journalism. I worked for the Boston Globe for 17 years, and every month I would get up and lead the sales meeting. And I'd talk about how much revenue we lost on a year-over-year basis and try to rally the troops. But we'd be focused on our goals and our new sections and initiatives, the usual sales meeting stuff. And every month we made it a point to connect the journalism to what we were doing on the sales side. And I'll never forget this one month. We had a team of reporters and photographers come in to speak to us. And they had just come back from covering the earthquake in Haiti. So this was in 2010. Now, this is a very important story in the Boston area because Boston is home to one of the largest Haitian American populations in the country. And they shared their images, their photographs with us, and told us their stories. The tragic loss of life, the deplorable conditions, sleeping outside in cots for fear as they endured the aftershocks. And their work was a catalyst for an outpouring of aid, medical supplies from Boston to Haiti. But it was a validation for me that morning as I sat there, why I've dedicated my career to working to fund journalism. Journalism that transported us from our headquarters in Dorchester, Massachusetts, down to the people in Haiti. Journalism that can make you cry, that gets people to write checks, and changes policies. In our always connected world, now everyone has access to this vital journalism. The delivery mechanism does not matter. How you get it doesn't matter. It's the journalism that matters. Reliable transportation for the sick, separating hysteria from concern in a public health crisis, and teaching the kids at a 5th grade class in Waterville, Maine, a memorable lesson about the good in all of us. That's the power of newspapers. Thank you.